Alright, this one's absolutely insane. We're talking about the greatest hunter South Korea has ever seen. A guy who literally created the system everyone uses to fight monsters, and he dies. Not from some weak ambush or betrayal. No, our guy goes out taking down Ganana, the strongest monster in existence. 3 years of preparation, countless sacrifices, and Junu wins. But here's the thing, his body is basically torn in half. His team is crying, begging him to hold on. Medical team is coming. Doesn't matter. Our hero knows it's over. He looks at his vice leader, smiles, and asks her to take care of everyone. His last words? An apology. After saving the entire world, this man apologizes. Classic. And then, he wakes up, some kid slaps the back of his neck. A bunch of punks are asking why he didn't bring them food during break. Our guy, the legend who just defeated a god-tier monster, is getting bullied by teenagers. The confusion on his face is priceless. Now here's where it gets wild. A mysterious voice starts talking to him. Says his death was a feudal sacrifice. Junu tries to argue back, saying the system he built will create stronger hunters. The voice just says 2 words, 42 years, and our guy is falling through an abyss, calling this being a cockroach while he tumbles into darkness. Not exactly the graceful exit you'd expect from a legend. He opens his eyes. Hospital room, white walls, bright lights, and the face in the mirror? Not his, young, different features entirely. A doctor and police officer are there asking about some accident. They say his name, his birthday, 3533. But Junu says he was born in 1975. Both of them look at this kid like he's lost his mind. The officer keeps pushing, asks about an ambush, about someone named Bankson. Our guy starts talking about defeating Gigantia in the dungeon of the Black Tomb. You can practically see the doctor reaching for sedatives at this point. They chalk it up to extreme delirium and leave him to rest. But Junu asks the question, what year is it? March 1st, 2051. He throws open the curtains, and what he sees breaks him in the best way possible. The soul he remembers was ruins, homeless refugees everywhere, disease, starvation, buildings collapse from monster battles. This soul, clean streets, healthy families walking around, people actually smiling, living normal lives. Our guy starts laughing, then crying. 42 years. That voice wasn't lying. He wonders if his old companions are still alive, if they're together somewhere, finally at peace. But that thought gets interrupted real fast when a portal rips open at the hospital. Alerts blaring, people running, a dungeon break right here in the city. Junu sprints toward it. This is perfect. He gets to see how much hunting has improved in 42 years, how the system he created evolved, how much stronger everyone must be now. And then he sees the crowd, people, regular civilians, gathered around like they're at a sporting event, cameras everywhere, newspapers ready to cover the subjugation. A soldier announces that in 10 minutes, they'll bring a monster out of the dungeon. Out of the dungeon? Our guy loses it. He starts shouting at everyone. See, back in his day, there was one absolute rule. The moment a monster leaves a dungeon, it can cause mass destruction. Subjugation must happen inside the portal. This was fundamental, essential. He literally gave lectures about this. And these idiots are treating it like entertainment. Everyone's asking why this random kid is so worked up. But before he can explain, a van pulls up. The crowd goes insane. Goat Uni is here. Some girl steps out wielding a sword. Young, way younger than Junu expected. Her bracelet glows purple as she connects to the system and heads toward the gate. These are the hunters of today. Celebrities, performers. Our guy watches in horror as the monster emerges from the dungeon. A massive humanoid wolf with giant fangs steps through the portal. Golden lightning crackles around the gate. Everyone's cheering. Uni charges in with her ice magic, the crystallization ability. The giant wolf lunges at her. She dodges easily. Just a swing of her sword and she launches a massive ice attack. People are amazed by her movements, saying it looks like a dance. Kids are telling their parents they want to become hunters when they grow up. Our guy feels a mix of discomfort and relief watching this. She lands grandly on the ground, readies her blade again, launches several ice fragments at the enemy. The monster screams in pain as its body gets pierced. One of the wolf's eyes glows red, staring at its opponent, but its body is already incapable of moving. It collapses. Everyone shouts her name, celebrating her victory. The protagonist starts laughing, seemingly happy with what he sees. Then he says, "That's not it." Extremely irritated, Junu asks if this is what they call elimination, stands there furious, says this is a mess. Here's what he notices. A rookie hunter dresses like a celebrity and relies solely on her own abilities. The rear guard doesn't even bother providing support, and what stresses him out most. They're carrying out a subjugation that could result in countless disasters on a crowded street full of civilians. He grits his teeth trying to contain his anger. Fails. Our guy kicks one of the cameraman's cameras. A soldier approaches asking him to stop, questioning what he's doing. Irritated, Junu asks what they think they're doing letting a monster leave the dungeon. Questions if they don't know monsters can go berserk after leaving a dungeon and fail to adapt to this dimension. Asks what they would do if someone used an ability and the crowd scattered, or if the monster acted unpredictably. points out the rear guard is completely exposed. Asks again if this is what they call dungeon elimination. Says it looks more like a street performance. The girl asks if he attends the academy. Our hero is confused. She explains it's all basic material they teach there. Field work is different from what students imagine, and that's when our guy snaps. In the coldest voice imaginable, he asks how this brat dares to call this a battlefield. In front of him, even Uni flinches. Security guards rush in trying to control the situation, but the damage is done. She throws one last comment about school life being difficult, whatever that means. Later, sitting on a bench near some buildings, our hero starts putting pieces together. That voice said it would bring him back in 42 years. Said Ganana would be revived. If that monster returns and these joke hunters are all that's left to stop it, everyone dies. Simple as that. He needs his old squad. But how do you find people from 42 years ago? Then it clicks. That girl mentioned an academy. And there's only one person who would have been crazy enough to build a school for hunters. Baywike. Flashback hits him. His old companion explaining his dream of creating an academy so the war wouldn't continue to the next generation. Asking Junu what to name it. Our guy, being the creative genius he is, suggested something simple. Korea Hunter Academy or whatever. He arrives at the school, looks up at the sign. Hunter Academy. The man actually did it, used his exact suggestion. Our hero is genuinely disappointed in his friend's lack of imagination. A guard stops him. Never seen this kid before. Asks if he's here to see Yunchi. Apparently she's popular. Junu denies it. He asks about someone named Baewoik. The guard's eyes go wide. The president? Why would someone who isn't even a student want to meet the president? Then the guard asks if he's a special admission student. Our guy has no idea what that means but goes along with it. Immediately the guard looks at him with pity. Not a great sign. Walking through the halls, Junu nearly has a heart attack. There's a massive painting of his old face hanging on the wall. Plaques everywhere with his quotes. One says his motto was, "A hunter is made of 99% effort and 1% talent." Embarrassed. Our hero wonders if he ever actually said that nonsense in his life. The guard knocks on a door. Wake tells them to enter. Our guy stares at his old companion. The man is older now, clearly. Distinguished, presidential, and completely confused about why some random kid is standing in his office claiming to be a special admission student he was never notified about. Woik tries to intimidate him, asks who this brat is. Junu interrupts him, calls him by name. The president freezes. Our hero points to his own face and asks if his old friend doesn't recognize him. The man rushes to his phone, calling security, demanding they remove this lunatic. But then Junu asks how Song is doing. The woman who always rejected Woik left him crying. Says it apparently didn't work out. Grabs him by the collar, screaming, demanding to know who he is. And our guy? He just shoots him a deadly glare. Tells his old subordinate he's getting too bold, that whether facing monsters or people, if you're going to take control, do it properly. Flashback again. Same exact words, same situation. A man holding a hostage at their old base demanding food and medicine for his sick sister. Young Junu walking straight toward him, telling the man that if he wants to save someone, he must be prepared to sacrifice others. That's the world they live in. The man tried to attack him. Junu destroyed him with a flick of his fingers, then ordered his team to find the man's sister and bring him to training in the morning. That man, now the president of the academy, staring at his former leader reborn in a teenager's body. Woik asks what happened to him. Junu says he doesn't know either. Just woke up like this. His old companion can't believe it. Someone coming back from the dead in a child's body isn't exactly common. So Junu threatens to tell the story about when Woik wet his pants during his first hunt. The president punches him in the face. Fair enough. Later, after some embarrassing moments involving push-ups and ice packs, they finally talk properly. Woik explains everything. After Junu defeated Ganana, the world became peaceful. Dangerous monsters are rare now. Public subjugations are acceptable because hunting became entertainment. Hunters are celebrities. The associations need sponsorships to survive. Our guy is livid. This isn't progress, this is regression. And then he drops the bomb. Ganana will be revived. Woik nearly collapses. Same monster they sacrificed everything to defeat. Coming back. The president tries to argue maybe he misunderstood, but Junu cuts him off. Someone like him returning after 42 years of being dead in a new body is proof enough. He says he'll take care of everything himself, just like before, but he needs his old weapon. Woik explains it's at the headquarters of the Supernatural Dimension Management Association, controlled by Executive Director Soku, the youngest member of their old team. Perfect, Junu thinks. That guy was extremely loyal. Except Woik warns him that Soku is actually one of the least happy about his potential return. Nothing is easy anymore. But there's a catch. Soku's granddaughter attends this school, and apparently he never says no to her. Our hero asks the girl's name. Woik says he already knows her. She was at the hospital subjugation. Remembering Uni, Junu realizes this won't be easy at all. After that disaster of a first impression where he basically called her a disgrace to hunters everywhere, very worried, Woik asks if he hurt anyone. Junu reassures him he only said a few things with some anger and left. Our guy starts screaming that he has no idea what to do, then calls his subordinate over with his hand, asks for the registration form. The president is shocked. Is he really going to enroll? At this age, he won't fit in with the kids. Either he'll be bullied or he'll bully. Extremely angry, Junu says he won't make friends. Once he gets his weapon back, he'll quit. Woik hands over the form while begging him not to treat the students like he treated his old squad. Next day, Hunter Academy, Class 1E. Our hero stands at the door, determined but nervous. Suddenly, someone asks what he's doing there. A girl tells him if he's not going to enter, at least get out of the way. He awkwardly says he was about to enter. She stares at him and asks if he's the dog from yesterday. Confused, he questions what this dog thing is about. She says she heard a special student would transfer but didn't expect it to be the dog from yesterday. Says this isn't on her tab. He asks again what dog means, gets no answer, walks into the room. Every single student is staring at him with their mouths open, wondering if this is the dog from yesterday, the kid from the video. Incredulous that he's actually here, the video of him went viral on social media. Whatever that is. On his desk, a bouquet of flowers from the president. Our guy is disheartened, calling it a waste of money and resources. Then, some punk bursts in, cursing at the teacher, claiming he wasn't the inconvenience. The brat says waking up for school is annoying while all the students stay silent. Observing this kid, Junu recognizes the type immediately. Another one who thinks he rules the class. The brat spots him, opens a wide smile, approaches saying there's something new here. Gets close and asks if he's not the dog from yesterday, the boy who messed with Uni during the public hunt. Our guy gets slightly nervous asking how he knows. The kid laughs, explaining the video is everywhere on social media. The old man still doesn't understand what that is. The brat slaps his own head saying even so he managed to get transferred. Calls Junu crazy for picking a fight with Uni and ending up in her same class. Surprisingly, the punk extends his hand. Says his name is Juke and it's a pleasure to meet him. Remembering Woik telling him to tolerate irritating behavior, our hero shakes his hand. Internally dying to beat this brat senseless as Juke mocks his name, asking if his parents thought naming him after a great hero would make him a great hunter. The punk starts talking about Uni. Says her body isn't bad, face is cute, doesn't know where her grandfather is, but that's probably why she has such a rude personality. Boasts that if it weren't for that, she'd be exactly his type. Someone tells them not to exaggerate. It's the same girl from before, Ayan. She tells Juke to look in the mirror before judging someone's appearance. Angry, the brat says he let things slide before, but now she's crossing the line. She responds that there's nothing distinguishing them since they're all in Class E. He yells that he was originally Class B. She fires back that he ended up here because of incompetence, and if it weren't for his father's connections, he'd have been expelled long ago. Juke gets ready to slap. She closes her eyes. Our guy kicks him across the room. Everyone is shocked. The brat asks if he just kicked him. Junu stares with an indifferent look, asking if he wants him to do it again. Getting up, Juke threatens to beat him until his head is back in place. The protagonist laughs, calling him a little delinquent, asking if he's ever been close to death to say such things. The brat throws a punch, terrible form, left his right side completely exposed. But the teacher walks in asking what they're doing. Juke leaves, promising to make Junu's school life much more interesting. In the president's office, Woik is extremely stressed, says his leader caused trouble on day one. Explains that kid's father is the minister of the subjugation department in Korea, and even with all the chaos his son causes, nothing appears in the news thanks to daddy's power. Our guy finally understands why the brat is the way he is. The president warns he won't be able to help if Junu gets involved with Juke again. Outside the office, Ayan is waiting, asks why he did that. Doesn't he know what kind of person Juke is? He says he's never liked people like him, then asks why she was picking fights with that brat when he wasn't even talking about her, but about Uni. Looking at her more closely, the boy realizes she's extremely similar to the hunter. Same name structure, too. Surprised, he asks if she's Uni's sister. She confirms. Our guy gets excited he can start getting closer to her. But crushing his hopes, Ayan explains she's not a direct sister. Different mothers, not even in the family registry, basically strangers. Trying to ignore all that, he asks if she has any connection with her grandfather. With an irritated look, she says she has a great relationship. After all, it was that old man who took her out of the registry. Speechless, he made a mistake. She asks if he helped her, thinking he could get a big connection. Says special admission students are practically prey needing to rely on someone. Thought he might be different, but he's just like everyone else, only concerned with status. He fires back that she's not any different, making assumptions just because he's a special admission student. Calls all this talk about status, families, and special admissions ridiculous. Angry, she says he'll soon see what the life of a special admission student is like. He asks if that's true. She watches him leave without understanding, just stays silent. Later, walking through the halls, someone approaches from behind. A big guy asks if he's the special transfer from Class E. Two more brats appear on the other side. As expected, surrounded, they take him to a storage room, completely dark. Someone speaks from the shadows. Juke asks what the fake Junu is doing there. Before creating unforgettable school memories, he needs to ask something. The wannabe delinquent asks if a student like him really wants to pick a fight with someone important. Already losing patience, our hero asks why everyone keeps talking about special admission everywhere he goes. Mockingly, the brat explains it's very important. Someone who entered thanks to support for the disadvantaged isn't on equal footing. He won't do anything since he's restricted, but his companions will. One of them tries to kick him from behind. Easy dodge, the guy falls to the ground. The big one charges, calling him a rat. Junu lands a knee to his face. Blood everywhere. Down in one hit. All the delinquents are terrified. Calmly, our hero asks if they have a problem. Weren't they saying they'd take him down? Weren't they promising unforgettable memories? With a terrifying look, he says if they want to cause a fire, they should do it the right way. Ayan is walking through the hallways, cursing under her breath. She remembers what the protagonist said, that she was just like everyone else, making assumptions without knowing him. It's getting under her skin. She overhears students talking. The special admission student got called by Juke and his gang. Others say it's already too late. This will be the record for dropouts. Someone asks if anyone told the teachers, but nobody wants to get involved. The girl turns away, muttering that someone like him always gets what he deserves for acting so presumptuously. Then she remembers his words again, about her making assumptions. She stops in the hallway. Suddenly IN starts running desperately through the academy. Back to our guy, he's facing the remaining 3 delinquents after dropping their biggest member with one knee. Juke is cursing at his subordinates, telling them to continue until they crush him. They hesitate, clearly unsure about confronting someone who just demolished their muscle. Disappointed, Junu asks why all this drama over just a nosebleed, says their physical and mental abilities are exactly on the level of small children. The wannabe delinquent gets extremely angry, tells one of his companions to use his ability. They protest. If they get caught, they'll be expelled. But Juke says they just need to make sure they won't be seen. Our hero notices they're all wearing bracelets similar to Uni's. So, that's how hunters access their abilities now. Juke connects to the system, uses his ranked access to summon a black trident, starts bragging that he'll make the boy beg for mercy. The protagonist asks if this wannabe really thinks summoning the weapon is all there is to it, grabs a broom from the floor, points it at the brat. Extremely furious, the former leader asks how this kid dares to use an ability against another person outside of a dungeon. Meanwhile, in the faculty office, teachers are discussing the special admission student causing trouble on his first day. One admits he's brave for fighting Juke from Class B. Another asks if this means he has no talent to be a hunter. The female teacher denies it, explains that student Junu was excluded from the aptitude test evaluation. This status is given to those whose combat classification is so exceptional it can't be measured. The only other student to receive excluded status was Uni. This boy is on the same level. They wonder why he didn't go to Class A. The teacher says it was an order from the president. Both don't understand why he wouldn't want to stand out. Suddenly Ayan bursts in, clearly tired and panting, starts explaining the situation. Back in the storage room, our guy is blocking Juke's attacks with just the broomstick, easily defending everything. The brat is getting angrier with each strike, wondering what's happening. Just activating the ability should have been enough. The protagonist tells him his combat ability isn't meant to be used so carelessly, warns that the trident's power came from a monster that controls shadows. With sarcasm, asks what ability the brat thinks he's using with that fly swatter. This was a weapon given to Juke by his father in elementary school. Thanks to it, he joined Class B. His spot as a hunter was practically guaranteed. Field agent position lined up, and here's some random transfer student making it look like a toy. Junu disarms him. The system alerts that the weapon was separated from its user. In his hands now, our hero tells the brat to pay attention. This is how you use this weapon. A bright flash pierces through the windows. In the blink of an eye, all light disappears. Everyone is horrified. It's like night fell instantly. As the darkness passes, they look at their feet. Their shadows have disconnected from their bodies. No trace of shadow left on anyone or anything. Except the protagonist. All the shadows are taking over his body. Juke is utterly horrified, staring at this demonic figure, doesn't comprehend what he's seeing, starts hyperventilating, and his fear wets his pants. Junu places the trident against the brat's neck. Juke begs for his life. Our guy ignores him, raises the weapon. The trident shines as it moves toward him. The wannabe delinquent cries desperately. The system notifies 1 minute has passed. Weapon sealed by force disappears from the protagonist's hand. Seeing Juke lying on the floor foaming at the mouth, Junu states this should be enough. Kicks the boy's leg trying to wake him up. Tells him he didn't actually do anything. Orders him to pull himself together. Still scared, the brat does as instructed. The protagonist calls for him again, stares ominously. Tells him that skills and weapons are very dangerous when used outside dungeons, especially against humans. Makes him repeat it. Says, if he ever sees him using abilities like that again, he'll break his legs. Then, turns to the rest of the gang. Orders the fat guy to punch him in the face, hard as possible. After all, they wouldn't want others knowing they failed. Our hero doesn't want attention, needs to finish this quickly. The fat guy asks if he should really punch him. Junwoo tells him to go for it or he won't succeed. The brat uses all his strength. The teachers enter the warehouse just as the punch lands. Blood everywhere. The teacher approaches, shocked, scolding the students, says the protagonist was just transferred. But the fat guy says the blood on the floor is his C, meaning the gang's blood. Everyone gets sent to the coordination office. The teacher asks Ian to take Junwoo to the infirmary. As she passes him, our hero says this body is weaker than he thought, asks her to guide him. She doesn't say anything, just looks at him confused. He tells her to forget it, he'll handle it himself. But she asks who he really is. He says he's just a special admission student who got what he deserved for stepping out of line. She says she saw everything. Flashback, when the teachers asked her to check behind the academy, she found them, snuck up to the window, saw the protagonist scolding Juke, was shocked. She asks why he's not in class. Irritated, he says that's none of her business, wants to remain discreet and leave like he never entered, recommends she forget everything she saw. Ian says he's right, but then admits she's just like him. Initially saw him as inferior just because he was a special admission student, apologizes for what she said. The protagonist accepts, asks her to guide him to the infirmary. She asks for his help, says it's extremely necessary for her to become a student council member, explains that to enter the council you need a guarantor, especially someone like her with no accomplishment. People usually go after guarantors to eliminate competition, that's why she can't find one. She's asking him to be her guarantor? Junwoo quickly rejects her, already too busy with his own plans. Ayan offers anything he asks, but he insists it's not something she can do, starts heading to the infirmary. She asks if he doesn't want her to explain how the academy works. Money matters, introduce him to Uni. He questions if she could really do that even though she was expelled. Embarrassed, she says it wasn't exactly like that. Her sister is a member of the student council. If she becomes one too, they'll naturally get closer. Our guy loses hope again, says he'll figure it out on his own. Suddenly he feels very unwell. The girl runs toward him as he collapses to the ground. Elsewhere, an emergency meeting of teachers takes place. They're discussing Juke using his abilities more than once. One teacher who witnessed everything says they cannot keep giving light punishments. The president is called on. He asks Professor Yubin if Juke and his friends really attacked Junwoo. She confirms. Asks if the protagonist was beaten. She hesitantly confirms. Starts laughing. Thanks her for the testimony. Composing himself, he says since this happened more than once, they cannot show impunity. Juke should be expelled. But someone raises their hand. Teacher Jungmin asks permission to speak, says expelling a student for this would be too severe. Boik asks why. The teacher claims this was common in their time. The boy was just excited. Professor Yubin argues a mistake like this could cause serious accidents. Jungmin insists Juke is the future of the academy. Wrong to diminish that potential over a single mistake. Suggests 1 week suspension to reflect. The president says he'll think about it. Meeting adjourned. Still inside the room, Jungmin smiles while picking up his phone. Calls the minister. Informs him the meeting ended and everything will be resolved with suspension. Thanks to Juke's father being a corrupt police officer, no one accused the teacher. The minister says that boy wasn't even an official candidate initially. The teacher should be grateful to Jungmin. The man apologizes about the special admission student, says his abilities were beyond expectations. The minister asks if the student truly has abilities justifying his admission, presses him. As a member of the parent council, he believes first-year council members have already been determined. Jungmin agrees, gets instructed to handle everything appropriately. Minister invites him to lunch. After the call, the teacher finally relaxes, remembers the protagonist, admits he's not at student level, stronger than most veterans. But this will be his last chance. Must find a way to deal with Junwoo. 3 days pass. Our hero realizes he hasn't even managed to see Uni. In his class, there are only talentless losers, and because of that, the academy doesn't teach anything about hunting. Not worth standing out. Someone hits him on the head. Those brats showed up again, asking if he was told to heat up their food during break. If he wants to starve them, should teach him about common sense. The protagonist is furious, wondering how he became their errand boy. The fat kid says he has no shame, orders him to follow them. They walk through the corridors, leaving everyone in shock. The boy calls out to them, says that hurt, makes them bow and apologize. Asks if they're letting emotions get the better of them. They desperately deny it. He asks if they looked into what he asked. The kid says it's impossible for a freshman to get close to council members. In a terrifying manner, the boy asks if that means they found nothing. The fat kid says, apparently Uni rarely comes to school. But there's one more thing, she only has one friend in the whole school, another council member. Jong Yun, our hero, realizes this is the only useful information, asks where this boy is now. Nervously, the kid explains Jong Yun doesn't come to school much either. Tired of this, Junwoo says he shouldn't have trusted these brats, orders them to leave. Scratching his head in the corridor trying to find answers, Ayan appears behind him, says she warned him this wouldn't work. The girl reiterates that council members are from powerful families with the best skills and money. They're students, but also actual hunters sent on real missions. Their parents are so influential, even teachers are careful with them. The council holds massive influence. They're completely different from regular students. The protagonist asks what the other option is. Excited, she says he just has to help her become a member. He refuses again. She asks why he's rejecting so much even though it doesn't affect him. He points out she literally said they'd come after him. Plus, she herself said only people from important families or exceptional skills get in. She's neither. Ayen asks him to teach her. Says she'll learn quickly and improve. Our guy laughs in her face. With a terrifying look, he says if she learns from him, she'll end up dead. Silence. The boy says he doesn't know why she's so focused on the council, but she shouldn't aim for something out of her reach. Suddenly, she claims she doesn't care. Says if she doesn't become a council member, she'd rather just die. Asks him to train her. Anything, skills, martial arts, whatever. Junwoo says break time is over. He's leaving. She asks what he decided about being her guarantor. And here's the thing. Our guy genuinely feels happy with her courage. Admits he hasn't seen eyes like that in a long time. Says she might really be interesting. A little later in class 1, the teacher congratulates students for their work. Reminds them about the monthly evaluation this week. Tells them not to relax just because it's a monthly test. But Jamin interrupts her lesson. Says he's there to warn about changes in all evaluations. From now on, first-year tests will be held in a real dungeon as a practical exam. Most students are frightened. The teacher becomes extremely irritated. Says it's absurd her students have to take a practical exam. Jamin asks if that means they can't do it. Calls it discriminatory. Mentally, the protagonist realizes these children weren't even taught how to use skills, let alone hunt. Looking at the teacher, he understands there's definitely a hidden agenda. Jamin says students who aren't confident can opt out and take remedial classes. Won't affect progress. But adds that the special admission student cannot opt out. That would lead to expulsion. Our hero realizes this teacher couldn't have made this decision alone. Someone with enough power to change the system is behind it. In the president's office, Woik explains it was the minister of the subjugation cabinet, Meijin. The protagonist is now on the minister's blacklist after the incident with Juke. His subordinate apologizes, says they have a long relationship with the school. The minister is very influential, but Junwoo tells him to stop, didn't come to hear complaints, asks what he should do now, replies he'll take the exam. Still hasn't managed to meet Uni, asks if his subordinate has any weapons, can't enter a dungeon unarmed. Woik says he doesn't have anything. Our guy grabs his wrist, asks if he's trying to lie to his superior, points at his ring, asks what that is. The president is shocked. That was one of the protagonist's items, the Patello knuckle ring. Assumed after his leader's death he used it habitually and forgot. Recalls the day they met. The protagonist takes the ring, tells him to hand it over. The president looks genuinely sad watching the boy hold it. His subordinate asks if he's sure. Junwoo says since it's a low-level dungeon, it should be enough. Before he can leave, Woik calls him, asks him to avoid coming there frequently. The boy tells him to stop giving him reasons to visit. Meanwhile, Jamin is walking through the hallways, stops in front of a room, knocks, opens it. In front of him, Uni, sitting and working on a computer. The teacher asks what brings her to school for the first time. She asks what he wants. He says this isn't a place forbidden for teachers. She's acting arrogantly. The girl ignores him, continuing her work. Irritated, he sighs. Explains the monthly evaluation this week. They decided to select a field evaluator from council members. Warns it will be a practical exam. She asks if it really won't be theoretical. He says she doesn't need details. Asks if she's interested. She says no. Schedule is full. He tells her to ask the others. She says they're all in the same situation. Jamin asks if she wants him to postpone the practical exam. She says that's a good option. If the exam can't be held without council members, better to ignore it. No benefit to them. Asks if the academy will pay her as part of a subjugation. The teacher starts yelling, calling her a delinquent. Says he supported her a lot in first year. Only because of that did she enter the council. The girl assures him he helped because of her grandfather, not her. Tells him he should handle situations more appropriately. Treating a council member with disrespect. Someone enters the room. Jong Yun asks if it hasn't been a long time since their last meeting. Questions the reason for his visit. Composing himself, the teacher says he's looking for someone from the student council to evaluate exams. The boy says in that case he can do it. After all, he's also part of the council. Even the teacher admits this boy is problematic. Jamin informs him the paperwork is on the desk. After filling it out, take it to the teacher's office. Uni watches the situation unfold. Asks Jong Yun if he doesn't have a subjugation schedule. He does, but he's going to cancel it. She asks why. Even though he doesn't like that professor, he wants to intervene and help. The boy says it's actually just a way to keep an eye on him. Doesn't want something like that incident to happen again. Changes the subject. Says the boy who shouted at Uni signed up as a special admission student. Remembering what happened, she's surprised. At the time, he wasn't even a student yet. Jong-yun says he researched him. Not only did he humiliate Juk on his first day, but he's also exempt from evaluation. Asks if she's not curious about what kind of person that guy is. A few days later, students are gathered outside the academy. Our hero notices that some from classes C and D are missing. Classes A and B seem eager to show off their skills. Meanwhile, in his class, the only participant is him. But then he hears someone asking if it'll just be the two of them. Yin is standing there. Says it's good since she won't have to wait her turn. The protagonist asks what she's doing here. She says it's obvious, she's going to take the test. Won't be much help, but doesn't want to be a burden either. Junwoo gets angry, tells her the dungeon is no joke, orders her to stop trying to be kind, asks if she hasn't realized this whole thing was designed so Class E would give up completely. The girl repeats that she needs to become a council member, even if it costs her life. Says if she takes remedial classes, her grade won't be good enough. If she gives up on this exam, it's over. Jungmin calls everyone to attention, says they're not at great risk, but everyone must remain calm and focused. Explains the test takes place in a marine-level dungeon or lower. Groups of 8 will be formed. After discussion, the exam starts with Class A and proceeds from there. Then he introduces the student council member who will oversee everything. Jong-yoon introduces himself to the freshmen. Our guy notices the name sounds familiar. The teacher calls for Class E students. Due to lack of participants, Junwoo and Ian will be merged with remaining students from another class. Juk's gang shows up to greet him, trying to maintain their act. Even Ian comments their acting is getting worse. Other people complain about bad luck being grouped with that pair, say they'll have to act like there aren't 2 extra members. One of the boys apologizes to the protagonist, says he'll talk later, but our hero says this will actually make things easier. Asks what information they have about the dungeon. The kid hands him a tablet, but the way he does it makes everyone stare. He quickly resumes his act, calling the protagonist a useless delinquent and ordering him to gather information. Both the teacher and Jong-yoon ask if everyone is ready. They should understand combat and progression by now. Jungmin says the exam ends when they completely defeat the boss, looks at the students saying this isn't anything special. The protagonist just stares at his hand without responding. They enter the dungeon. Test begins. Walking through, our guy analyzes the tablet. Classic scenario, dungeon with cave-type monsters. Suddenly something catches his attention. Several rat-like creatures come charging toward them. Students are terrified, urging teammates to prepare for combat. They start accessing their systems to activate abilities. The protagonist remains still, wants to measure how useful his companions actually are. One uses wind magic. Another is a combat marksman with a slingshot. The bulky one uses berserker ability from the enhancement class. They start attacking. Sniper hits multiple projectiles. The big guy protects a friend about to get hit. As expected, Junwoo is disappointed. Extreme disorganization, just swinging weapons aimlessly. The same people who criticized him and Ian are using weapons without knowing how to wield them properly. The only interesting one to observe is a girl using fire magic, the blue flame ability. She manages to hit monsters and defeat them easily. Takes down several at once. Remembering that Class E doesn't learn combat, the protagonist realizes she must have studied on her own. Says that for a brat, she's truly impressive. Even if she's still at beginner level, everyone is extremely tired, wondering if this will ever end. Suddenly, one of the monsters attacks a member from behind. The protagonist equips his patello ring, uses the same explosive flow attack he used against Woik years ago, but this time on a stone. Blasts a hole straight through the monster. The boy who was about to die is utterly terrified. Junwoo tells him to use abilities with more precision, otherwise he'll always get exhausted quickly. They start criticizing the protagonist, saying he's trying to earn points the easy way, telling him to stay out of it. Our guy becomes extremely irritated, but someone calls him trying to calm him down. Juke's boys approach, ask if they can really handle this. It's harder than they imagined. Junwoo scratches his head angrily, notices no one realized they almost died, still at the start of the dungeon and already exhausted. The only one who could move forward with him is Ian, but he can't trust her either. Admits he could go alone, but they're being watched, and he senses something is wrong. He approaches the teacher, asks if the dungeon's condition doesn't seem strange. The monsters are low level, but there are too many. Still at the entrance and already exhausted. Something odd is inside. Suggests the supervisors help the hunt. Jungmin says the boy is being arrogant. That's his decision to make. Junwoo warns that at this pace, an accident will happen. Tells him not to regret this choice later. The teacher shouts asking if anyone wants to quit because they're exhausted. Everyone looks at each other. Despite being tired, no one speaks. Even the 3 who almost died stay silent. Jungmin says none of them want to quit. If the protagonist is exhausted, he should leave instead of dragging teammates down. Warns that if he interrupts the exam again with useless comments, he'll be disqualified. Someone places a hand on his shoulder, asks him not to worry. Jong-yun says if a dangerous situation arises, he'll intervene. Even though it might not seem like it, he's still a council member. Asks the protagonist to trust him this time. Our guy just observes without saying anything. Back inside the dungeon, everyone is excited to realize they've reached the boss room. A large door stands before them, but everyone is exhausted and quiet. The protagonist takes a deep breath, already expecting something bad. He steps forward, says he'll open the door, asks if anyone objects. Ain says they'll open it together. He says this is a door he can open on his own. She insists. Says he's probably laughing inside thinking everyone else is scared. He just grumbles as they walk toward the door. The two begin opening the gate, and our guy becomes extremely frightened. In front of them, a giant monster, clearly dead, a massive rat lying lifeless. This was the boss. Everyone begins to feel very scared. The teacher asks Jong-yoon if this is the dungeon they were practicing in. The boy says it seems to be active. The protagonist approaches the monster's body, analyzes its wounds, suddenly declares this is dungeon interference. Junwoo shouts, ordering everyone to retreat. The kids panic, asking why so suddenly. He repeats, dungeon interference, retreat now. But in front of them, a large shadow appears. Our guy looks directly at the monster. A giant fox-like creature stands before them. Everyone is utterly terrified. Junwoo explains dungeon interference happens when a stronger boss defeats a weaker one and invades the dungeon. Both Juman and Jong-yoon are visibly frightened. Aen is paralyzed with fear. The protagonist states this is the worst situation that could have developed. A green-ranked boss, the three-tailed feline. This is disastrous. A green-ranked boss in a purple-ranked dungeon. Everyone starts running out of the boss room. The feline leaps to stop them, lands on the ground causing massive destruction, blocks their escape. Jong-yoon asks everyone to stay behind him, connects to the system, activates his rank C abilities. Golden spikes begin emanating with a yellowish aura around his body. Physical enhancement category. Porcupine ability. He asks the protagonist to help. Says he won't be able to face a green-ranked enemy alone. Our guy is surprised by his words. The council member apologizes, says he's researched him for some time. The protagonist is exempt from evaluation judgment. Now is not the time to hide abilities. Junwoo becomes genuinely worried about so many people knowing this. Flashback to his test moment. The system warned his power level was immeasurable. He asked the president if there was any way to fake it. Attracts too much attention. Said these are tasks he cannot exercise authority in. If the protagonist stays quiet, teachers will simply ignore him. Because it's a task where he cannot exercise authority, people consider it very important. Our guy gets irritated. Shouldn't have been so soft back then. He decides not to make it too obvious. Tells Jong-yoon he doesn't really understand what he means. The monster prepares to attack. Jong-yoon notices the feline's movement. Prepares a strike, spots an opening. Moving his arms, he launches several spikes toward the creature. They hit multiple points. Monster loses balance momentarily. The council member leaps toward the beast, shouts while preparing another strike, hits the feline's head. The monster screams in pain, eyes glow golden. Students are astonished by Jong-yoon's strength, realizing how weak they are in comparison. Some start saying the specially admitted student isn't doing anything, that the senior is trying to help him, but mentally, Jong-yoon is trying to understand something about the protagonist. He continues attacking with spikes, extremely surprised, never had such an easy fight. Being able to fight a green-ranked monster so easily feels like someone is handing it to him on a silver platter. Suddenly, he locks eyes with the protagonist, realizes it's probably him making this happen. The boss takes advantage of his distraction, tries to attack, but the protagonist hits a stone with explosive flow directed at the feline. Because of this, the council member dodges. He finally understands. Every time the monster tried to attack him, its attacks were interrupted. He remembers reading in the manual about a strategy like this, stabilizing an enemy, but it's practically impossible. On top of all this, his companion is using the technique without anyone noticing. He snaps back to focus. Right now needs to concentrate on the hunt. Lands a powerful strike on the boss's forehead. Spike pierces its skull. They defeated the boss. All students are extremely impressed, begin to revere the council member. The teacher feels relieved the incident from 2 years ago didn't repeat. Mentally, Juman declares that since Junwoo received his evaluation exemption incorrectly, he'll use this as grounds to expel him. The protagonist shouts that the monster is still alive. Tells everyone to stand back, it's dangerous. But someone shouts calling out the specially admitted student. That same brat who was saved by Jong-yoon earlier, jumps on the monster saying the protagonist just wants extra points, declares the final blow is his. The beast opens its eyes, moves to kill the boy. He freezes in fear. The protagonist curses while rushing in his direction. Jong-yoon manages to save him, but loses one of his arms. Spits blood after taking the attack. The boy stares at the scene, terrified. Everyone is petrified by this unexpected turn. The council member lies on the ground, losing blood rapidly from the wound. Everyone runs desperately away from the monster. Ayan is frozen with fear, wondering what she should do, how she should act. The monster heads toward her. She talks to herself, trying to stay calm, convincing herself that her fire power should be effective against a feline. But she's so scared she can't move. Her breathing becomes extremely heavy. Keeps saying this is impossible. Body trembling, can barely stand. The boss opens its mouth, moves to attack her. The protagonist uses explosive flow, but now with the hard punch ability, throws the monster far away. The girl snaps back to reality after seeing this happen. Observing him, she notices the protagonist is different from before. The creature crashes to the ground with a loud thud. She calls out to him, but the boy walks past without saying anything. The council member lies on the ground, the boy he saved crying over his body, completely horrified by the situation. In a chilling manner, the protagonist orders him to stop crying, take his senior with him, tells the chubby one to help carry the body, orders the rest to stay still in a corner. Juno assumes this was his mistake. He hesitated instead of dealing with everything alone. Effortlessly dodging the monster's attacks, our guy remains extremely irritated. The monster's three tails have tips glowing purple, closing in on him. He easily dodges them all, activates his ring's ability, quickly lands a powerful upward blow on the feline's jaw. The monster bleeds heavily, collapses toward the ground. Before it can fall, the protagonist prepares another strike, delivers a crushing sequence, gives the boss no chance to defend itself. Students watching are stunned by his strength. Even those who already knew are surprised by the true scale of his power. Juman is terrified, wondering what he's witnessing. In the worst possible way, he understands the protagonist wasn't exempt from evaluation by mistake. With this level of power, he's already stronger than most seniors, and using an ancient supernatural weapon, the teacher begins warning him it's dangerous to use a supernatural weapon. Juno looks at him, simply ignores him. But he realizes Juman is probably talking about the punishment. All supernatural weapons have their own penalty, can vary, sometimes even killing the user. Even so, he prefers them. The bracelets grant the ability to harness attacks from monster cores. But supernatural weapons maximize a monster's power and shape it into suitable form for the hunter. The new method reduced the entry barrier. But the new generation is weak. Stronger monsters require more power. Suddenly, he gets distracted for a moment. The monster takes advantage. Ian screams, telling him to be careful. The beast launches a massive slash toward him. Surprisingly, he vanishes from its sight. Activates his ability again. The creature looks upward. The protagonist spins like a Beyblade in the air, using rotational force to deliver a stronger attack. Lands a powerful blow on the monster's head. The strike is so powerful it causes a shockwave, generates a smoke cloud from impact. As it clears, the boy stands in the middle of the battlefield. Juno stares at the monster while the ring's penalty, the Fear Devour, is active. The boss stares at his figure. The massive feline begins to tremble in fear. Patello, a green-ranked monster our hero hunted in a distant past, cannot be defeated. It feels fear. The penalty of this ring is that the first to feel fear dies. For him to win, he only needs to make his enemy fear him. And right now, that three-tailed monster is shaking like a leaf staring at a teenage boy. Juno approaches them asking if the student council member is okay. Notices Jong-Yun is still alive but losing blood very quickly. He asks the teacher for the walkie-talkie so he can report to the control center. Juman does as he's told, hands over the radio. The protagonist calls for help, formally alerts the control team that the final training group has completed the dungeon but there is a casualty. Reports the dungeon changed from purple to green due to interference. There's a B3 injured student with severe blood loss. They're leaving now. Asks for a rescue team. They request the injured student's name. He says it's a third-year student named Jong-Yun. Tells them to alert the person in charge. Juman asks for his true identity. Seeing that he's ignored, the man starts shouting, demands to know what the protagonist is, orders him to answer. Our guy punches him in the face. Out of patience, Juno strikes the teacher after he falls to the ground, starts cursing him. Juman tries to complain, but the boy asks if he's really a supervisor, can't even analyze the situation. With a menacing look, he orders the teacher to shut up or face consequences. The man simply becomes too scared to test his patience. After some time, they're leaving the dungeon, meeting with the rescue team. Jong-Yun begins transport to the hospital. The president approaches, asking if his leader is okay. Boik says apparently he couldn't restrain himself. Irritated, the protagonist replies that thanks to that, no one died. His subordinate complains that now everyone will know about him. The boy calls the man by name, angry. Says a teacher from that school sent unprepared students into the dungeon trying to get rid of him. Asks if his companion really thinks that makes sense. Boik looks terrified, staring at his leader. Juno warns that if something like this happens again, he won't stand by quietly. Asks the president not to make him return to his active days. At another moment, the teacher stands in front of Woik, angry. He asks if there really weren't any problems during the test. Reminds Juman that he was the one who recommended the practical test. The teacher claims there's no connection between the decision and the incident. Says it was meant to address educational inequality. The president begins saying that even in situations like this, he keeps trying to find excuses for his mistakes. Asks if he really thought Woik wouldn't find out the test was an attempt to get rid of Juno. The teacher is surprised he said this so directly. Even knowing Woik would notice, he wonders if there's someone else close to the minister. Concludes that's not the case. Jamin says the test followed all procedures. No one was forced to participate. No one was exposed to danger. He keeps explaining himself, but the president slams the table. Says the problem was the sudden switch to a practical test. 60 points are required to pass. An ordinary special admission student would never make it. The teacher says Junu is not ordinary. Received exemption from evaluation. Still the best in this test. Reaffirms this was an incident caused by natural disaster, dungeon interference. Plus the test was approved by the president himself. Out of arguments, Woik remains silent, closes his eyes. Says it's fine. Orders the teacher to submit a report by end of day. He and the control team will review body cam footage and make their decision. The teacher leaves convinced everything went well. Suddenly the president says he must make one thing clear, states he does not fear Minister Meijin. Says until now, the only person he fears is Junu from 40 years ago. If something like this happens again, he won't be able to save Juman. The man is slightly frightened. Outside the room, he seems lost in thought, finally relaxing, loosens his tie. Quickly calls the minister, informs him the matter will be handled internally. Thanks to Juke's father being a corrupt police officer, it didn't accuse the teacher. The minister says initially that boy wasn't even an official candidate. The teacher should be grateful. Jamin apologizes about the special admission student, says his abilities were beyond expectations. Meijin asks if the student truly has abilities justifying his admission. The teacher feels awkward answering. The minister presses him. As a member of the parent council, he believes first-year council members have already been determined. Asks his opinion. Jamin simply agrees, gets instructed to handle everything appropriately. Meijin says he's been working hard, probably tired of teaching, invites him to lunch. After the call ends, the teacher finally sighs in relief. Remembering the protagonist, he admits Junu isn't at student level, stronger than most veterans. But this will be his last chance. Must find a way to deal with him. At a large hospital, the protagonist anxiously stares at something while someone says it will hurt. The nurse places cotton on his wound. The boy screams. The woman tells him not to lie down until it dries. If it starts bleeding, call her. Ayan says he's whining like a baby over a small scratch. He tells her to shut up. Pain is pain. Mentally wonders if this is because he hasn't used supernatural weapons in a long time, or because his body has changed. Junu says the girl keeps coming there every day to bother him, tells her to stop visiting. She says she'll stop if he promises to help her. The protagonist asks if she's still set on joining the student council, wonders how many times he'll have to refuse. Says it's none of his business whether she gets in or not. Besides, he doesn't have time to help her. Someone says that entering the student council will be easy anyway. A hand appears at the curtains. Jong-yun. The girl says she heard he was transferred to that room, asks if he's okay. They ask if he's improved. He claims apparently he won't die, though it still hurts. The council member asks if the boy he saved really quit the same day after the practical exam. Junu says that guy was a coward, didn't even thank the person who saved his life. Jong-yun says being alive is what matters. Looking at him, the protagonist asks if he's not being overly optimistic. Even after losing an arm, the council member goes quiet for a moment. Says his father always told him that as long as he's alive he can overcome anything. With a smile, the boy says since he's not dead everything will work out in the end. Leaves the protagonist speechless. Our guy admits people like this have been rare since his past life. Even found him suspicious at first. Says it's been a long time since he's heard words like those. Ayan asks what he meant by difficult earlier. Jong-yun says he heard their conversation. Says it will be very difficult to join the student council now. She asks if it's because she's in Class E. He denies it. That's not the reason. Asks if they've ever heard of the parent association. Ayan says from the way he describes it, it doesn't sound like an ordinary parent group. Her senior confirms. He explains that in first year, the association consists of 5 parents with 5 children. Coincidentally, the limit of student council members per grade is also 5. Asks their opinion about that. This is a group of influential parents who have already decided their children will be council members. Ayan asks if that's how he became a member. He denies it, says he was a reserve, got in because of an extra spot. The protagonist says any minimally influential group decides the members and eliminates the competition. Suddenly asks if students have ever died during this process. Startled, the boy asks if that's not clear enough already. Jong-yun says even though it's not good to say such things, he asks the girl to give up on becoming a council member. She says she won't do that. Becomes outraged that other competing students might also die. The girl tries to use this to her advantage, asks the protagonist if he doesn't find this ridiculous. He sees the corruption within the academy puts students' lives at risk. Even though he wants to help, the rebirth of Ganana is worse. The boy insists he doesn't have time for these things before meeting Yuni. Jong-yun says she arrived just in time. Behind them, Yuni. He says she came to visit him. The girl approaches. Both stand speechless. The protagonist is incredulous that things have taken this turn. Junu stands up, walks toward her. As they approach, he mentions it's been a long time since they last saw each other. But the girl simply ignores him, walks toward her sister. Ayan says it's been 2 years since Yuni told her to quit the academy. The girl asks what her sister will do now that she's already enrolled. Yooni remains silent. Both the protagonist and Jong-yoon just watch. Our guy says he doesn't know what happened between them, but apparently there's deep resentment. Maybe that's why Ayan is so determined to join the student council. The girl starts walking away, says she's leaving first. The protagonist asks if she's already going. Surprisingly, Yooni asks if her sister is hurt anywhere. She looks at the girl. Ayan composes herself, asks if Yooni is really going to pretend to care. Jong-yoon tries to lighten the mood, approaches them, asks if they know each other. The protagonist and the girl just ignore him while staring at each other. Mentally, our guy confesses he can't stay there, feels like he's suffocating. The council member begins to leave, says he's going for a walk. But Junwoo asks Yooni to talk outside. Without saying anything, both walk past the boy, leave him behind. He's left alone in the room, not knowing what just happened. In the hallway, the two face each other in silence. The girl asks what kind of problem he has with her. He admits to himself he hadn't planned how this conversation would go when they finally met. The boy hesitates, unsure whether to ask to meet Soku or say he's a fan, concludes neither would work. She says she heard he completed the subjugation exam alone, asks if it's true. The protagonist denies it, says his senior did all the work, he just finished it. But the girl insists he wouldn't be capable of that. Yooni says even in a situation like that, he managed to perform well. Implies the advice she gave him wasn't in vain. Our guy feels slightly irritated by how she spoke about Jong-yoon, who, with a mocking expression, he says the girl seems a bit full of herself. She asks if he's trying to provoke her. Junwoo denies it, says he wanted to meet her to make peace. The girl asks if he wants to join the council, asks if he's trying to make connections, assures him with his abilities he doesn't need to. He quickly replies he has no interest in becoming a council member. She asks him to let her say something. Extremely angry, she says she doesn't care if he wants to join, but he shouldn't involve her sister in it. Losing patience, the protagonist says the two are alike. Don't listen to anyone, whether involving themselves or others. Says the only person who wants to become a council member is Ayan. The boy says either way, he needs to resolve something with the girl's grandfather. She doesn't let him finish speaking, pins him against the wall. Yooni demands he tell her everything her sister asked him, asks if Ayan asked him to help her get the position, or to take revenge for her. Irritated, the boy braces his foot against the wall. Using his momentum, he reverses the situation, throws the girl backward, but she stops and starts spinning her body, attempts to land a knee strike on him. The protagonist releases her arms, protects his face. Yooni starts trying to punch him. Taking a step back, they stare at each other. Our guy notices this time is completely different from the last. Realizes this level is far too advanced for someone her age. The girl quickly approaches, prepares to strike. While dodging, Junwoo admits he underestimated her, wonders why she didn't seem so skilled during the last public subjugation. Dodges one attack, takes advantage of an opening, begins removing the bandage from his arm, throws it into the girl's face. Before she can recover, the protagonist already has his arm around her neck. Cornered against the wall, she asks if this isn't against the rules. He asks if there are any rules at the school. She says for a special admission student, he's adapting quickly. Several people watch the scene as they discuss the last subjugation. The girl claims the field is different from what he imagines. Doesn't matter how you complete it. What matters is captivating the crowd. He just looks at her without saying anything. She asks what he needs. The protagonist says it's nothing too important, just that she talked to her grandfather. Junwoo says he needs her to bring in weapons from headquarters. She immediately states it's impossible. He says he heard they're only for display. As director of the support headquarters, her grandfather could probably move a few. A nurse approaches, asking them to stop. Yooni insists it's impossible to convince her grandfather. The nurse tells them they can't cause trouble there. Junwoo looks in their direction, startled. The girl smacks his hand, makes him release her. Simply walks away without saying anything. Our guy says they'll see each other soon. She says she never wants to see him again. He replies it will be difficult, especially since she's Soku's granddaughter. Back in his hospital room, Jong-yoon asks if the conversation went well. The protagonist says it didn't. The boy says he figured as much. Junwoo questions whether Yooni's relationship with her grandfather isn't very good. Jong-yoon assures him it's neither very good nor very bad, seems more formal. The protagonist asks if it's not like a typical family. His friend confirms, asks what they talked about. Junwoo says he wanted her to ask Soku for something, but she said it's impossible. Jong-yoon says that makes sense. She's never asked him for anything. Plus, the old man is very intimidating. Says it's a delicate subject. Shouldn't discuss it there. The boy starts laughing. Says it's entirely the protagonist's fault for making such a one-sided request. Asks if he should give money. Junwoo says Yooni doesn't need money. However, there's something that could catch her attention. The boy asks what that would be. Jong-yoon states it would be Ayan quitting the academy. Says he doesn't know the reason, but she really doesn't like her sister being at the school. Recalling her reaction after he mentioned Ayan wanted to join the council, the boy says if they can persuade the girl to quit, maybe Yooni will grant the request. Suddenly, Junwoo asks for silence. They see Ian was listening to their conversation outside the hospital. The girl sits on a bench, clearly discouraged. Remembering their conversation, she mentally confesses she wants to become a council member to confront Soku, take revenge on that old man. But she also knows that with her abilities, it will be difficult to graduate on her own. That's why she needs Junu, someone beyond her class level. Extremely demotivated, she states there's no reason for someone like him to help her without getting anything in return. Says it's okay. After all, this always happens. She'll have to deal with everything alone again. Suddenly, someone appears, catches her attention. He asks who she thinks she is to act so pathetically while still being so inexperienced. The boy asks if she's going home. She says she was about to, starts sitting down, asks if perhaps she was thinking of giving up. The girl feels a kind of apprehension, becomes extremely irritated, says she would never do that. The protagonist smiles, confesses that was what he expected to hear, keeps smiling while staring into nothingness, says he fought with her sister earlier. Shocked, Ian asks if they really fought. He confirms, says she's quite skilled, says it's complicated, especially given his situation. First impression was a mess, second time they fought. The boy says he's going to change the plan. Instead of trying to convince her, he'll threaten her. Ian calls him disgusting. She asks how he plans to do that. The protagonist says he'll use her weakness. The girl asks if her sister has one. He simply points at her, says she is Yuni's weakness. Junu tells her to think carefully. Her sister is the student leader, a hunter ranked at the top, granddaughter of someone influential. Why would Yuni care about an irrelevant Class E person like her? After all, no matter what she does, she would never reach her sister's level. And the other reason she doesn't want her sister at the Hunter Academy? Having Ian there represents a threat to her career, or perhaps she's afraid her sister might take her position. The girl claims to know how to self-evaluate, says that doesn't make sense, but the protagonist tells her to make it make sense. She grows curious about those words. He says she needs to know enough about Yuni's position so they can find a weakness. The girl doesn't know what to say, mouth hanging open at the idea. The protagonist asks if she's not confident in herself. Ian pauses to think, suddenly shouts saying she can't do it. The little psychopath just smiles at the situation. He stands up, says in that case the conversation is over. Junu says he warned her about events that wouldn't take long to happen. That's starting tomorrow. She should prepare herself. Says the goal now is to make her a candidate for the student council before the start of the second semester. The girl asks what that means. He says it's exactly what she imagines. The protagonist says the Parents' Association needs one of them defeated, asks if she understands. As he walks away, the girl calls out his name again. With tears in her eyes, she thanks him for his help. The guy, completely impatient, just waves his hand as he leaves. Later at a sushi restaurant, a man asks if Tan is okay. Another guy says children are always like that he's worried now that Tan has softened since joining Class A. They're talking about the practical exams and their children at a table full of fancy food. Suddenly another person arrives to join them. The teacher apologizes for being late. The other men ask him to sit. They ask if Juke is okay. Say they were worried the accident might cause problems in the council selection. At this table are gathered all the parents who are part of the first-year association. The teacher asks if they can start discussing the main topic. If you enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Yume Recap, and stay tuned for the next video.